Hello, and welcome to another of today's episodes of Saddest Night Out. My name is Roy, and I'm the host of this daily podcast, and it's primarily about music and creative culture in London. Off the top, my next live show is Tuesday the 20th of August at Road Trip and the Workshop on Old Street. It's free entry. It's myself playing music as well as Izzy, Kinsoul, and Rose White and Jack. If you go to facebook.com/Saddest Night Out, you can find more details there. But that's Saddest Night Out Live number 3 at Road Trip and the Workshop, free entry on Tuesday the 20th of August. It's Monday, so of course it's time for the Monday catch-up. This is when I cast my eye back on the previous week, what I got up to, the people I spoke to, etc., etc. I'm a little bit guilty already because I haven't listened back to last week's episode, so I can't look at what it was I had planned. But let's take a look at who I spoke to. So, I was pretty productive last week. Monday, 2 episodes. Monday I recorded 2 episodes. Tuesday I recorded 2 episodes. Wednesday I recorded 3. Thursday 1 and Friday 1. So, on Tuesday, I posted conversations with Rose White and Jack and with Joss Mowgli, both at the Half Moon. I went to see them perform at New Moon Mondays at the Half Moon in Putney. That was Monday night. A very long journey, but a very fulfilling performance. And for the first time, at least what I think is the first time, but I've done a few of these episodes, you see, so I can't always remember, I put a snippet of their performances at the end of each episode. So you heard a bit of Rose White and Jack, and you heard a bit of Joss Mowgli's performance as well, which was a really fun thing to stitch together in the editing process, and I hope it paints a bit of a picture of what these artists are like. It's one thing to hear them talk about it, but yeah, maybe in future I'll make more of an effort to add some audio from an artist's performance when I get the chance. But those are 2 newcomers. In fact, I think everyone except for one person last week was a newcomer to the podcast. So Monday I spoke to Rose White and Jack and then Joss Mowgli. Tuesday I went to the Elliott Smith event at the Finsbury and I recorded 1 episode with Dan Caleb and Rob Comber and 1 episode with a whole bunch of performers who performed as part of that event. And those were, in this particular order, Cymbal Soup, Max Bloom from Yuck, Ben Fox Smith, Georgia Maria, Pilgrim's Dream, and Aaron King of King Cassio. All newcomers? No, Pilgrim's Dream has been on the podcast once before, and it was at Road Trip and the Workshop when I spoke to him. You see how it all connects, people. That was a really fun event. I was not that familiar with Elliott Smith before the event. I've listened to Either Or a lot afterwards. I am going to go with Either Or, and then XO, and then Figure 8. But I'm taking my time with each one. So I've just done Either Or, because he seems like the type of artist who makes the type of music that you want to really seep in. So you want to sit with it. Thank you to everyone that I spoke to. Thank you all for sharing across your social media that you'd spoke to me. I did see a bit of bump in the listens this week, but I'll get to that at the end of today's episode. Wednesday, it was the Littleton Arms, and I spoke to 3 different people. First, I spoke to Pete Buckley before the night in his car, of all places, which is a really, really intimate place to talk, actually. It really helps to silence all the environmental noise, so you can just focus on the conversation. Then I spoke to Mary C. Parker and Jamel Hooper after the open mic. All 3, again, newcomers to the podcast. Mary and Jamel were newcomers to the open mic as well, and both American comedians. Jamel was visiting as part of his holiday. He left last Friday, and Mary is studying here, and she'll be here for a while. All fantastic conversations, very different insights to the importance of the relationship between performer and audience, and a really fun time at the Littleton Arms, as we always have. Thursday, it was part 2 of 2 of the Moon Williams story. Again, I spoke to him in his car, and we continued where we left off from the previous conversation we had. And this time he spoke more generally across his career, things that he's seen change, lessons he's really taken to heart, things he would have changed if he could, and what he's focusing on these days. I cannot praise this man enough. It was fantastic to talk to him, and I can't wait to see him on the stage again this Thursday. And if any of you ever get a chance, you should absolutely go and check out Moon Williams, because he is breathtaking when he sings. And the final episode, well, technically the final episode that I posted last week was with Nicole at the King's Head, which was a bit of an impromptu chat, but every bit as fulfilling as all of the others. Someone who has a very personal connection with the art that they perform. So much so that they only really perform it for themselves. They're not looking to get on a stage. They're not looking to accrue followers. They just find it so satisfying to indulge in their art, and it seems to be primarily dance. They just want to dance. They just want to dance. And that was a really fun conversation. And it was a fun, even though she's not looking to perform again at the open mic, I had a good time performing with Nicole that one time. And at least I can say, I guess that means I'm the only person who can say I've shared a stage with Nicole. So thank you very much for that prestigious honor, Nicole. And thank you to everyone that I spoke to last week. And technically, I did speak to Honey B. McKenna last week because we spoke on Sunday, but it will be today, Monday, that the episode is uploaded. And she was the complete yin to Nicole's yang, in that Nicole is very personal with her art. Honey relishes every chance she gets to get on the stage. And that was a really interesting conversation. This is someone who's had vocal lessons from a young age, who performed at the Royal Albert Hall from age 10. Just very impressive throughout. One hell of a performer as well at the open mic, and I look forward to the next one. So, a bunch of newcomers to the podcast. Really, hold on. So there were 2 people on the podcast last week. 3 people on the podcast last week who've been on before. Dan Caleb, Pilgrim's Dream, and Moon Williams. But everyone else was a newcomer, again, mostly at the open mics. Although I really enjoyed the chats I had at the Finsbury because that was such a last-minute thing. But I'm so glad it played out well. That last week, I think my aim was probably to continue working on the show I have coming up and to work on the online stuff. I have not done as much as I would have liked to on either, but every week is a new week to try and readdress that. I want to spend a lot more time at Caffrey. I've at least moved my stuff there. So I can essentially set up my office every time I go there and get back to trying to achieve my goals. I caught up with Ken on Friday. Kenneth Bodeville, who was on the podcast before as well. At one point I was talking to Ken and Sean and Jay and Sydney, all of whom have been on the podcast. I've started rehearsing in the mornings with Jay and Sean. We've got a bit of a 3-piece thing going there, and we all seem pretty quick at learning each other's material. But I'm still in a little bit of a limbo of getting my own band together because I really want 2 guitarists, a bassist and a drummer. But I'm very aware of how it can feel to have people join your band who aren't as invested as you are. Not as a slight against those people, but more a slight against myself in not being convincing enough and thorough enough in presenting my vision and what I want to achieve, such that newcomers feel a bit casual about it, I guess because they sense that I am casual about it. So I need to readdress that. Got my show next week. I have finalized my lineup for September, which will be Chris Gabriel and Lou, as well as myself. I need to talk to Kinsole for the podcast because I want to be able to say everyone I've performed with has been on my podcast first. So look forward to that episode at some point this week. I've got some other people in mind for conversations this week, so watch this space. Oh, that was a little bit of my brain just pressing pause for a second there, but now it's pressed play again because Its Own Animal was kind enough to let me listen to his album that is coming out in September. It is fantastic. He is an absolute marvel when it comes to the music that he makes and how well produced it is and how heartfelt it is and how amazing it's going to be when it's on the stage, good and loud, the way it's intended to be. And you can hear that on stage on Sunday, the 22nd of September at Paper Dress Vintage, which is the venue I hope to go to tonight. Again, do you see how it's all connected? Thank you very much for that, Gary. And again, I must speak to him again to really get into the depth and the layers of the album that is coming out, as well as his career in general. I do not have off the top of my head shows that are coming up this week, so watch this space. I will say more about that as the week goes on. Although I am planning to see See-Through Hands tonight at Paper Dress Vintage, if I can leave my place in time. It's just started raining very heavily outside, so say a prayer for me, won't you? let's get to the numbers, folks. Let's talk about the real nitty-gritty of the week. It's interesting because I, as of yet, haven't been great at promoting my stuff online. So any episodes that are particularly popular, I think it is a credit to how much the people on that episode have been promoting it themselves. So, according to SoundCloud, this week I had 52 plays. Last week it was 29, so a bit of a jump there. According to Podbean, I had 346 plays compared to 210 last week, so another big jump. 458 downloads compared to 125 last week. And last week, my top 5 countries were Germany with 2, downloads, Australia with 2 downloads, Japan with 24, America with 26, and the UK with 68. This week, my top 5 countries according to Podbean are Australia with 5, Ireland with 13, that's Peter's crew showing up there, thank you very much, Japan with 29, America with 137, and UK with 257. So thank you so much to whoever is responsible for those. The word is definitely starting to get out there. Going back to SoundCloud quickly, so my top 3 episodes on there were episode 89, Recording O2, where I recorded a demo inspired by Interpol. Episode 16, the Sonic Tonic All Dayer, where I spoke to, among others, Sea Monsters and Melt Dunes. And episode 155, where I talked about a lot of new music that I was into. My top listeners from SoundCloud were Tokndo Rock, Tokndo Rock, Pilgrim's Dream, hello Rob, and Joby Jobst, Jobi Jobst. Hello to all 3 of you. Thank you for being my top listeners on SoundCloud. My top countries on SoundCloud were Germany with 6 plays, America with 7, UK with 29, and my top 3 cities were Islington in London with 3, Bath in Germany with 4, and Exeter in the UK with 11. So thank you all very much for that. Back into the details with Podbean, I mentioned my top 5 countries. The platforms which were most used to listen to my podcast, last week it was Apple Podcasts 11%, Google Chrome, the browser 14%, Spotify 21%, iTunes 24%. This week iTunes were 10%, so they went from top to bottom of this list. Apple Podcasts had 14%, Chrome had 15%, and Spotify had 30%. I think most of the people who shared my episodes shared the link to Spotify. Spotify feels like the most credible source, the most, okay, so this really is a thing. So that, for me, explains why that's the most popular platform for people to find me. What other details were there? What other details? We all know why we're really here, and that's to hear the top 10 episodes according to Podbean. So, in at number 10, I've got last week's and this week's side by side, so I'm going to try and really do this like Top of the Pops. In at number 10, down 6 places, episode 190, Moon Williams Part 1 with 19 downloads or plays. No, it's downloads. In at number 9, down 7 places from number 2, it's Rick Raw, episode 192 with 19 downloads. In at number 8, new in at number 8, it's episode 196 with Joss Mowgli, 22 downloads. In at number 7, it's episode 201 with Jamel, 22 downloads. In at number 6, down 3 places, it's Cairo Mia, episode 191 with 23 downloads. At number 5, down from number 1 spot, it's episode. Again, we press pause. Let's press play again. Episode number 193 with Eche at the King's Head is number 5 with 24 downloads. At number 4, new in the chart, episode 200 with Mary C. Parker at the Littleton Arms, 25 downloads. Number 3, it's those Corrigan Girls, up from number 5, episode 189, 28 downloads. Number 2, it's episode 199, which is new in the chart when I spoke to Pete Buckley at the Littleton Arms, 30 downloads. Again, Ireland is really representing there, thank you. And in at number 1, episode 198, Elliott Smith turns 50 at the Finsbury, when I spoke to a whole bunch of artists. That has had 35 plays. Thank you all so much for listening and for being on this podcast and for spreading the word about it. I will up my efforts. In fact, last week I did an Instagram live for the first time in absolutely ages. Hello once again to Phil from my university days. He was the most constant viewer of the Instagram live. It basically kind of turned into a FaceTime chat between me and him, except he saw my face and I didn't see his. And he's the one that recommended I check out See Through Hands, who are playing tonight. I did also speak to Freddie Matcher, who has also been on the podcast. He joined me on Instagram Live, so that really was a FaceTime chat, and it was nice to catch up with him. I want to try and make that a more regular thing. I want to emphasize this being a more communal chat. So I want to talk about other people's releases, other people's shows coming up, who's getting up to what in this town, the movers, the shakers, the ups, the downs, etc., as well as talking to people face to face at the nights. I want people who aren't personally on this episode to feel like they're still a part of the story. So that's going to be my focus this week, as well as trying to get the website together. In fact, Squarespace sent me an email and the headline to it was just, "You can do this." I think once you start an account, you have 14 days before you have to start paying. That's when you're supposed to set up the website, and if you like it, you can pay to make it a real thing. And I haven't really touched it since. I will sit down with my laptop and spend some time on it, as well as practice performing for my show next week. Will I sleep over at Caffrey? Well, just watch this space, folks. Time will tell. More Instagram, more Facebook, more Twitter, more YouTube, etc., etc. I feel exhausted just saying it, but it's what needs to be done in this modern digital age. But that's all from me for now, because I am starving, so I've got some eating to do before I head out and get on with my chores, my errands. That's the term, with my errands for today. But thank you all very much for listening. Thank you for sticking around. Once again, Tuesday 20th of August is my next show. After that, it's Tuesday 17th of September and then Sunday 22nd of September. Tuesday 17th and Tuesday 20th are both at Road Trip and the Workshop. Sunday 17th of September is at Paper Dress Vintage with Its Own Animal, as well as Delilah Black and Juliet and Nanette. Gary, aka Its Own Animal, gave me a whole bunch of flyers to give out, so I will be looking to do that in the very near future. That's all from me this week. Thank you all for listening. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.